Now, anyone that's been a long time subscriber of my channel won't be surprised by the fact that I've taken on this challenge. This challenge is unusual. Challenges like this are exactly my bread and butter. They're exactly what I love to do. I've been meaning to do this challenge for a long time, and it's a crazy one. This one is mental. This is a really hard challenge that I needed to overcome. This is the David Goggins run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. I hope you enjoy it. Boy, it was tough. Now, this is a challenge I've been thinking about doing for ages. It's one that I've gone down the rabbit hole on with watching loads of YouTube videos. I've watched other YouTubers do this, and they've made it look really easy. So I thought, how hard can this be? The Dunning-Kruger effect. If you don't know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, Google it, because you get 2 definitions. You get a picture of me. So this challenge is mental for several reasons. It's a challenge that I've been wanting to do for ages. I went down the rabbit hole on this challenge and watched several other YouTubers who have tackled this challenge, and they make it look really, really easy. Trust me, guys, I do not make this look easy. This is a hard challenge that I wanted to overcome. I've got the Thames Path Challenge happening in several weeks. I've got it happening in September, and I needed something to kind of help me train for that. Now, I can go out and run, you know, I can follow a training plan for ultramarathons that says run this distance every day, run this distance next week, run this distance the week after, which is great, but that's not kind of how my brain works. I get really bored of just following the same thing every single day. And it's also the reason why a lot of people give up on training, especially when it comes to running, because it's the same repetitive run. So I wanted something that gave me everything I needed to train for an ultramarathon. Now, I'm not the fastest runner in the world. So if you're watching this thinking, oh, how did he do it? How did he run it really fast? Or no, I didn't. Spoiler, I did not run these runs really fast. My PB for 4 miles is 38 minutes, I think, from memory, according to Garmin. But that's me absolutely going for it. That's me trying to put down a PB pace at the fastest I can run, with my heart rate smashed up through my head, not being able to talk, sweat pouring off me, and then having to lie down in an ice tub for an hour after I finished it. And I've been watching David Goggins for what feels like an eternity now. I love a bit of David Goggins. I love the fact that we have David Goggins in this world. He is barking mad. If you're not a fan of David Goggins, then don't worry. This video isn't about him. But if you don't know who David Goggins is, Google his name. He is brilliant. He's a Navy SEAL, American Navy SEAL, and he came up with this challenge, which is to run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours straight. So that means get up, run 4 miles, come back, wait 4 hours minus the time it's taken you to do that first run, and then go again. And then repeat that for 2 days straight. I mean, that's barking. It sounds, I was about to say it sounds easy. It really doesn't sound easy. As soon as I describe this to anyone that knows me, they just raise their eyebrows. Doing a challenge like this at a PB pace is not feasible. I might be able to do it for the first run. I might even be able to replicate it for the second run. But to do that 12 times over 48 hours is not feasible, because that's what I have to do. I have to run 4 miles 12 times, which equates to 48 miles over 2 days. And I have to include eating. I have to include all the admin that goes with running like this. So making sure I've got all the gear set up, making sure I'm replenishing my energy levels, making sure that I'm showering after every run, because I am in the middle of August when I'm doing this. And I have to, and this includes having to sleep as well. This includes sleep. So I can't miss any of the deadlines. So yeah, it's the next day. I've just woken up. I've had a shower. I've put on some respectable clothes, non-running clothes, and I've come into the garage because I wanted to do a quick rundown of the day after the David Goggins 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours challenge, or as it's known on social media, the 4x4x48 challenge. How do I feel? So I'll start with the obvious stuff. My legs feel fine. I mean, when I woke up this morning, they were a little stiff. They've loosened up now because I've been pottering around, having breakfast, had a shower, got dressed. So they've kind of loosened up a bit. They feel all right now. But that's to be expected, a bit of stiffness. I've done a lot of running, and then I stopped for a long time and let them rest. So there's going to be some stiffness. But it's one of those things where if I was doing another event or I had something coming up, then I probably would go for a quick recovery run. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to rest today. I've got some stuff I need to do this afternoon. Not necessarily fitness related. I've got some things that I need to go out, I need to run some errands, etc. So I'm just going to use that as a moving around. I'm not going to be sat on the sofa. I actually managed to get about 8 hours sleep last night. So I didn't do that thing where I went to bed early because I was tired. Obviously, when I'd finished the event, the last run I did was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I had the rest of the afternoon to myself. When I say to myself, I had the rest of the afternoon just to completely zombie out. I didn't feel as bad as I thought I would. I thought I'd be completely kiboshed, and I wasn't. I spent the afternoon just pretty much eating mainly. I was really hungry. Obviously, I'd burnt loads of calories. I'd worked out really quickly. I'm going off on tangents here, but this is kind of where my head's at. I'm processing everything that's happened, and I wanted to get this on camera rather than sit down with scripted bullet points of things that I wanted to cover off. I calculated I'd burn about 500 to 550 calories. I didn't. I burned over 600 on every run. I was really hungry when I finished. However, all I did for the 2 days where I was running, in between each run, I would eat something. But I made sure that I was eating my breakfast, my lunch and my dinner at the normal times. Well, as normal as I can be in between the runs. And I made sure that when I was eating breakfast, lunch and dinner, they were at the end of the previous run and at least 2 or 3 hours before the start of the next run. What I did find really tough was the 3 hours I had in between at the end of the run. So when I did a run, obviously, the more runs I did, the further I got into this challenge, the slower I was getting. I mean, I'm not a fast runner to begin with. My best PB for 4 miles, I think, is 38 minutes, 39 minutes. But that's me absolutely going for it. That's me fresh, with fresh legs, pushing the pace, not being able to speak, sweat pouring off me, pretty much flat out the whole 4 miles. Obviously, I'm not going to be running like that for this challenge. If any of you are interested in giving a challenge like this a go, I'm not really an advice channel. I'm a channel where I just document my fitness journey. So the only tip I would give, having said that, the only tip I would give anyone that's thinking about doing a challenge like this is don't think about pace, speed, finishing times. They are what they are. As soon as you start getting your head in a place where you're really obsessing about the time it's going to take you to finish this challenge, then you kind of set yourself up for failure from the beginning. Unless you are, an elite runner or someone who's really capable at running and can run 4 miles at a blistering pace really comfortably, and you can do that multiple times, but then that wouldn't be a challenge. This wouldn't be a challenge for you. If you're someone like me who does a lot of exercise but isn't necessarily good at one particular thing, a kind of jack of all trades, then this is a really good challenge. For me, the challenge in this was the repetitive running, and it was the recovery in between. This was the challenge. So what I mean by that is I'd do a run. It would take me, at the beginning, it would take me 45 minutes, just over 40 minutes, 42 minutes. I'd get back and I'd have 3 hours and 15 minutes to recover. 3 hours and 15 minutes is not recovery. It's not enough time to do anything, let alone recover. And what I mean by that is by the time you've had a shower, changed, I put the next running gear on. So I put on the gear that I was going to use for the next run. Save time. I didn't change into comfortable clothes in between. I just wore what I was going to wear for the next run. And then I spent 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes doing admin. And what I mean by admin is making sure that I'm set for the next run. So when I go to do the next run, when the timer went off 15 minutes, because I set a timer to give me a 15-minute warning, 15 minutes isn't long enough to fix something if you've forgotten to do something. So I would spend 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of my recovery period or my reset period. I would take the time there to kind of fix anything I needed to fix. So if I was getting blisters, fix the blisters. If I needed to eat, I would eat. If I needed to sort stuff out like electronics, like the cameras, microphones, batteries being charged. Obviously, this isn't a problem if you're not a YouTuber and you're not interested in filming the run. This isn't something you'd need to worry about. Sorting out my trainers. Too often, I would found myself kicking my trainers off. And then I'd be scouting around trying to remember where I left them. So making sure they're always in the same spot. Making sure that my water vest, which is still sat here from yesterday, which needs washing quite badly, it being this close to my face. I refilled the water in the bladder, made sure that was refilled if I needed to. I got my energy gels out for the next run, put them in the place where I needed them. All this sort of jazz, all this nonsense that on its own doesn't sound a lot, but when it's all built up, and then when you come to do your run, if you haven't done any of that, if you're scouting around looking for your trainers, if you realise, or if I realised that I hadn't filled my water bladder up, if I wasn't wearing the gear ready to go when the alarm went off and I'd lost track of time, if I hadn't have done all that stuff, then it kind of puts you on the back foot straight away, and then your run becomes more of an ordeal than it needs to be. I mentioned the timer, so I tried to get some sleep, especially after the 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. run. I tried to get some sleep in between. When I say tried, I think I got an hour. So across the entire challenge, I think I must have had maximum of 5 hours sleep, possibly. Yeah, if that. So on both of the 2 days, I had to go out and run at 9 p.m. Now, 9 p.m, when you get back, 9:45, 9:50, whatever time it was, I got out of the garage and back in the house. By the time I've had a shower, changed, had something to eat, I'd already had my dinner by this point, but I was having a snack to make sure that I kept my energy levels up. I needed to make sure I was replenishing the calories I was burning. I was drinking electrolytes. By the time I'd done all that, I didn't have a lot of time to have some sleep. So, and I also didn't want to go to sleep at 10 o'clock, weirdly, because that's not how I don't go to sleep at 10 o'clock when I'm not doing a challenge. So I didn't do it in the challenge, where in hindsight, I probably should have forced myself to try and sleep, even if I just laid there with my eyes closed. But I didn't. So I did stuff around the house, which I would normally do, and I didn't rest. So then by the time the 1 a.m. run came, I hadn't slept. So then I did the 1 a.m. run, came back, and I went straight to bed. I had a shower, went straight to bed. So when you get back from a run, as you can probably imagine, you're not ready to go straight to sleep. I mean, I've never done that before. I've never done a high intensity workout or a run or a bike ride and immediately try to sleep afterwards. Even with having a shower and trying to reset myself, I was lying in bed just staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. I had to kind of force myself to try and get like a cat nap, which is all it was, and then my alarm would go off and I'd have to go again at 5 a.m. So I'd get up, do it again. I'm already in my running gear. I've already done my admin from the 1 a.m. run, so I was ready to go. Run downstairs, did the piece to camera, and then I went out the door. I was using the garage door here, so as I was trying not to disturb my family, even though it didn't work. They all complained the next morning when they all got up that they could hear me stamping around. But yeah, I used the garage door, which was actually really good. I'm really pleased I did that because it meant quick access in and out, and I was able to, again, it was about being frictionless. So again, so as a tip to anybody looking to do this, it being frictionless is definitely the key here, making life easy for yourself, psychologically as well as physically. So there's physical stuff you can do that removes the friction, such as making sure your trainers are always in the same spot, you're refilling your water, you're running at a cadence you know is capable, you're keeping an eye on your heart rate, making sure it's not going too high, you're not pushing yourself too hard too early. They're all the physical things you can do to make sure that this becomes as frictionless as possible, but there's also psychological things you can do. So knowing that you have got something to look forward to when you get back to eat, something stupid like that, knowing that you've got yourself a treat to eat that you wouldn't normally allow yourself, knowing that I had easy in access in and out of the garage as soon as I got back from the run. I didn't have to faff with a key. I didn't have to carry the key with me. I could just use the automatic opener on my garage. These are all really stupid things in themselves, don't seem like a big deal, but at 1 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning on the second night when you're exhausted, these psychological wins, these small ones, all build up like a Lego block, like Lego blocks of success. They all build up into something that's a little bit bigger than the sums of the parts of the whole. I'm trying to make a point, which is give yourself the small wins that make life easy for yourself. Going back to my sleep, so I didn't get a lot of sleep is the point, and finding the time to get an hour here and there was really tough. And then during the day, I didn't go back to sleep during the day, so I spent the breaks in between the runs resting, so I wasn't on my feet, but I was editing, I was replying to emails, I was dealing with just family stuff, life stuff that I normally would do. When you do an event like this, I mean, it's really tough to just switch off from life and just give up on everything for 48 hours. To a certain extent, I did. And Tracy and my girls made that easy for me. They allowed me to do that, which, doing a challenge like this, you have to have the support of the people around you. I mean, I'm not a single guy. I don't live on my own. And, you know, I have people that depend on me. So I need their permission to a certain extent to be able to do something like this without kind of putting it all on them to kind of deal with stuff, which, you know, I'm sure if you're a family person like me, you kind of get where I'm coming from. They were brilliant. And that kind of touches on what Tracy did for me as well. So Tracy helped me with the admin. So having enough stuff to be able to run 4 miles every 4 hours, I had to do 12 runs, which means I had to have 12 sets of gear. I didn't change my trainers. I wore the same trainers. And towards the end of it, they were getting quite damp from all the sweat. Realities of doing a challenge like this. So on hindsight, I probably should have had 2 or 3 different pairs of trainers, or bought one of them machines off of Amazon where you can dry your trainers out by putting them on the machine. I had neither. I had 1 pair. But I did have multiple pairs of shorts and t-shirts, running t-shirts. I probably should have had a second running vest as well, because that's, you know, that's pretty rank now. Yeah, the realities of doing a challenge like this, these are only things you think about afterwards. Because I'm doing this in August, I was sweating so much. And in my head, and I don't know whether I should say this, before I entered into this, I was thinking about time to sleep. I was thinking about eating. I was thinking about my gear. I wasn't thinking about showering. Obviously, I fully expected to shower, but after every run, I hadn't planned in the time it takes to have a shower. So my run was done. Getting back, I had my plan to eat, sleep, do bits around the house, do the admin of the run itself. The time it takes to have a shower was then, you know, factored in after every 2 runs maybe. I kind of thought to myself, I'll just have a shower after every 2 runs because, you know, if I'm going out running at 9 a.m, come back, do some bits around the house, I can then go again at 12 p.m, which was my next run. And do I need a shower in between? Probably not. It's only 4 miles. How sweaty can I get? I got very, very sweaty. I got the sweatiest I've ever been on any run. There was a few runs where it was literally pouring off me, like someone had poured a bucket of water. And that's what happens when you run in August. So I had to have a shower after every run. This probably isn't going to make it into the video. But yeah, I had a shower after every single run, which then meant I had to change everything I was wearing. So the washing pile built up, and yeah, I had to include washing my clothes to make sure I had enough to wear. I'm not, believe it or not, guys, this is going to be a shock. I am not an Instagram model or a fitness influencer. I'm not a Gymshark sponsored channel. So I do not have 12 different sets of gear, all color coordinated, to be able to just pick off the peg and go for a run with. I just don't have that. So, you know, I think I maxed out. I think after the 7th run, I'd maxed out all my running stuff. So I was umming and ahhing about wearing tracksuit bottoms, random tracksuit bottoms I had at the bottom of a cupboard, or re-wearing all the old gear. So obviously I had to wash it. So I planned that. After the 3rd run, I was thinking to myself, right, I need to start washing some gear because the way I'm sweating and the heat when I'm running, it's just becoming ridiculous. I need to start washing some of this gear. So that was another thing I needed to factor in. That was a long story to be able to basically tell you I needed to start washing what I was wearing, which on hindsight, you would have thought I would have pre-planned. Yeah, I didn't do that. I just thought 9 a.m. run, do the 9 a.m. run. I can wear the same gear again for 12 p.m. What's the harm? You know, I come back, pot around in the garden, do some bits, do some admin, fix some of the things that needed fixing, sort out my blisters if I had any blisters, have something to eat, go again at 12. Happy days. Yeah, it didn't work like that. Literally dripping wet with sweat. So I had to have a shower, change all my clothes because I didn't want to walk around the house wearing sweaty gear for 2.5 hours. And then the other thing on hindsight, if I was to do this challenge again, which I might do because it was actually a really good challenge, unlike some of the things that I've done in the past, where I've done them really, really hard, and I thought to myself, do you know what, tick, I've got it under my belt. It's another string to my bow, but I'm probably not going to do that again. This challenge, I really enjoyed. And I enjoyed it because it was a backyard challenge, meaning that I was able to set up base in my house, and everything I did was in the streets around where I live, which I really enjoyed. It was also really good for training, so it kind of took the boring aspects of training and got rid of it all and made it a challenge, which I really enjoy. I love being competitive with myself. I'm not fussed about beating other people, mainly because I'm not very fast. Again, shock. But I love challenging myself to be better than I was before. And this is what this challenge gave me. It gave me the ability to take just a run, a normal run, a 4-mile run, which I could do in my sleep, literally, because I was very tired. And it changed it. It changed a training run into a challenge, which just gave me that competitive edge and inspired me to keep wanting to do more of it. So from that perspective, this challenge was really, really good. On hindsight, some of the things I wished I had spent a bit of time on before starting it was I wish I planned the routes to make them exactly 4 miles. There was a couple of occasions where I ended up having to do loops around my house because I'd got back to the house, 400 meters before the end of the run. So I was at, 3 miles something, and I hadn't quite reached the 4 mile mark. So I had to just run around the block, which is pretty depressing when you're that tired, knowing that I'm running past my garage and I'm thinking all I've got to do is just walk in and I'm done, and I'm not done because I'm not at 4 miles, so I have to keep going. So I should have planned that a bit better. And then there was a moment where I ran further than 4 miles on one of the runs. I think it was I can't remember. It was one of the runs where I ran out and I was supposed to turn around at 2 miles and then just run back. I literally ran in a straight line. But at the 2 mile mark, I was listening to a podcast or I was inside my own head. I can't remember which now. It's all a blur. It's one big blur. I forgot to turn around, so I just kept going, and then it was only because I looked at my watch and thought, okay, I'm pushing over 2 miles, I need to turn around and go back. And then by the time I got back here, I'd done 4.5 miles, so I'd done half a mile further than I had to, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're running 48 miles over 2 days, an extra half mile is a big deal. And then that kind of leads me on to my last point, which is time management. Time management is key, and I think I kind of nailed it. I got it right. It's not a lot I do different. I mean, there was a few bits and pieces here and there. Not having to do this to camera before the start of every run and after the end of every run will make a big difference to anyone that's trying this challenge. You won't be doing this, I'm assuming, unless you're a YouTuber. But I actually worked out my timings well. I started it at 5 p.m. on Saturday, and then had to run every 4 hours. And starting at 5 p.m. was really good because my next run after 5 p.m. was 9 p.m., which is a good time to run, still light in August, so I wasn't running in the dark. Then I had to run at 1 a.m., which was absolutely pitch black. So a head torch, that was not a problem. The 1 a.m. run wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I'm a big bloke, so I don't really need to worry about running in the dark. I didn't go off on trail. What I was worried about in the dark, I'm going to be completely honest. What I was worried about running in the dark was, I'm known for the odd tippy tumble. I like to have a trip over things and fall down. I really didn't want to be doing this in this challenge because I didn't want to be risking injury, pulling a muscle. So I was worried that, I would go off on a trail somewhere and trip over a tree root or put my foot down a rabbit hole in the pitch black. I don't need it to be the middle of the night to fall over. I don't need that as a reason. So actively doing it in the middle of the night felt like a risk. However, I just stuck to the high street and the main roads and just run up pavements, which worked out fine for me in the end. And I actually quite enjoyed running in the dark because it was a different experience. Yeah, so I had the 1 a.m. run, and then the next one was the 5 a.m. run. And by 5 a.m. the sun's coming up. So I only actually needed to use my head torch on one run within a 24-hour period, which was the 1 a.m. So I actually do it twice, whereas if I'd have gone at midnight, so if I'd have gone at 4 p.m., 8 p.m. and midnight, I'd have had to have used my head torch twice. So I've had to have done midnight and 4 a.m., which I think the 4 p.m. in the afternoon start is the normal start time for the David Goggins challenge when everyone does it at the same time. So I got my timing spot on, and then the breaks in between. So by the time I finished my run, had a shower, I've got 3 hours to do everything I need to do. 3 hours to live my life, eat, do my admin, sleep if I can sleep. 3 hours isn't long enough to do anything. Sounds like a long time, but 3 hours isn't a long time. And it's definitely not long enough to recover. I've mentioned this already. It's definitely not long enough to recover. It's not long enough to fix anything. It's not long enough to make something go away if it's hurting. It's not long enough to fix blisters. I didn't get any blisters. I just want to quickly say I'm really, really pleased with myself. I didn't get any blisters. However, on the subject of injuries, I'm still recovering from the fan dance challenge that I did, 3 weeks ago. My feet are still not 100%, but they were good enough to be able to endure this, and I didn't aggravate it. I didn't make it worse, and I didn't have to stop because of it. It did slow me down a bit because I was thinking to myself, look, I'm not going to push this, and I started that from the beginning. Whereas on future challenges, if I ever do this again, I think I'd push a bit faster at the beginning because that gives me longer recovery time. If I'm able to run 4 miles in under 40 minutes, then that gives me longer in my recovery breaks in between runs. So the longer your run takes, if your run for 4 miles takes anything up to an hour, possibly even longer, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't let that be a reason why you don't try challenges like this. But be mindful that it does break down the time you have to recover between the end of that run and the beginning of the next run. That would be the only thing that I was starting to become conscious of, because towards the end of this challenge, my runs were very close to the hour mark. And I was conscious that the closer they got to the hour, the less I had to recover. I will quickly say in regards to the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge, because there will be a keyboard warrior in the chat that says, oh, you're supposed to start at 4 o'clock and you're supposed to do it live at the same time as David Goggins. I couldn't find a David Goggins challenge online. I would have loved to have done it with other people online. I would happily have, followed someone on Instagram and done it at the same time. I couldn't find one. From looking at it online, the last time an actual live event went with David Goggins doing it, being involved, was like back in 21, I think. So, years ago. I couldn't find one recently. I could be wrong. I didn't look that hard. I wasn't that bothered about doing it virtually. I'm not someone who does virtual running. I don't do virtual London Marathon, for example. I like to kind of do it myself. And I just thought, I don't need to do it with other people. I don't need David Goggins' seal of approval. I think it was a great idea. I think it was a really well thought out challenge, because it had all of the aspects of this being a really, really hard challenge that I needed to overcome. It had everything involved. It was perfect for ultra training, which is ultimately why I did this, because I have a 100k ultra marathon coming up in September, the Thames Path Challenge. And this had everything I needed. It had sleep deprivation. It had fatigue. It had the challenge of admin, having to treat blisters, having to make sure that my feet were okay. It had everything that went with, water bladder in my back and making sure I was hydrated. And it had everything I needed it to have for it to be a good training challenge for the Thames Path Challenge. There's a lot of challenges in that sentence. My point is, this had everything I needed it to be. Perfect. Perfect for me. Pleased I've done it. Will I do it again? 100%. I think this is a challenge which, I'd come back to in the future. I'm not doing it next week. Probably won't even do it next year. But I will come back to this as a challenge. I've got loads of other things like this I've got planned. I've got loads of things bubbling that I'd like to give a go. I want to say thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like and subscribe, because that means a lot. Leave me a comment down below. If it's about not following the rules, you can probably skip that comment. I really don't care. This was a challenge that I took on for myself. It was really hard and difficult. I really appreciate the support. And I also just want to quickly say a big shout out to everyone that gave me a like, a thumbs up or a heart on Instagram and left me a comment, because I was putting videos up live as I was doing this challenge. I put one up after every run or during every run, and I got loads of comments. And I just want to say thank you to those people that commented, because you made a difference, especially at 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. See you guys, see all of you in the next video. Thanks for watching.